liberty, democracy, service, courage, valor, heroism, giant explosions. These are just a few of the things you get to experience as a Helldiver. The camaraderie of your fellow divers, the thrill of battling a tyrannical force, the honor of defending all we hold dear. I want you to defend Super Earth. I want you to fight the alien forces of tyranny. I want you to accidentally blow up your friends, but actually it wasn't an accident, and don't tell Nick, he'll probably be very unhappy to hear this. I want you to become a Helldiver. Warning, Super Earth Incorporated does not maintain liability or responsibility for any injuries received during active duty. Side effects of becoming a Helldiver may include, but are not limited to, spontaneous combustion, decapitation, broken ribs, broken limbs, severance of limbs, scalping, road rage accidents, burns of varying degrees, missing or misplaced body parts, friendly fire, unfriendly fire, disembowelment, profuse hemorrhaging, and or complete bodily deatomization. Sign up today. Helldivers is a 4-player co-op game that all but in name screams Starship Troopers. You are a Helldiver tasked with destroying the alien forces of tyranny at all costs. From screaming democracy while holding down the trigger to sweet liberty, my arm! It's all about patriotism, and the presentation of Helldivers does everything it can to convey that. Everything is just so over the top in Helldivers 2 that it just has this infectious charm to it. You can't help but feel like you're really a part of the fight against tyranny. And as you know, the only good bug is a dead bug. But this comedic, over-the-top setting does more for the game and its community than you might think. Helldivers plays out in a mission-by-mission format. To pick a mission, you simply choose a planet to liberate. This is the Galactic map for the game, and the colors represent enemy territory and their controlled planets. Select a planet to help liberate, and as you complete missions, you'll push back the forces of tyranny on that planet. That's the basic overview. There are planets with events on them, which you'll see a majority of the player base engaged with, but regardless of where you choose to play, you can rest assured that someone will be there to help. Everyone is contributing to the Galactic map, whether you play one mission a week, only log in during the weekends, or play every single night, you're still fighting the good fight and helping liberate the galaxy. In a co-op game, a game about working together, it's nice to have an overarching goal that everyone is working towards, regardless of if you're actually playing with other people or not. This is Jerry. Jerry plays Helldivers, I play Helldivers. Even though I've never met Jerry or played with Jerry, him and I are working towards the same goal, galactic liberation. So when Jerry and I get into a game together and he yells democracy while I yell liberty, I already kind of like Jerry, and I want to make sure that Jerry doesn't get clocked by one of my stray bullets. Which definitely can happen. There's quite a few tools of destruction in Helldivers. From nukes to napalm, there's a lot of ways to spread democracy, and probably spread it a little too much. Yeah, if you sauce the 500 kilo warhead a little too close to you, you can probably figure your odds of survival. But that also goes for your teammates.
Hey. Yo!
And sure, it's fun to blow your friends up, mind out of the gutter. But friendly fire doesn't feel so friendly when you start running out of reinforcements. When the 10 becomes a 0, friendly fire isn't so funny anymore. Which is a good enough time to talk about the gameplay, as Helldivers isn't just a pretty face, she's got a good jawline. Next analogy. Actually playing Helldivers is a blast. The controls are super responsive, and your diver always does exactly what you want, when you want. You're not a super soldier though. In fact, you're meant to be expendable. You'll likely fall in battle repeatedly, but deaths can often be avoided despite the relentless enemies. Combining your positioning, firepower, and maybe even the occasional dive is what's going to keep you alive, along with the knowledge of when to pick a fight and when to avoid conflict. The best way to describe Helldivers gameplay is weighty. Your diver is carrying a lot of firepower at any given moment, along with a full suit of armor he's wearing. It's safe to say you're not going to be outrunning enemies unless you carve yourself an opportunity to. That's not to say movement feels sluggish, but your boots will clump with each step, and your dive will end with a loud thunk. There's a realistic weight to everything, and that goes doubly for the weapons. Weapons in Helldivers, remarkably, actually have recoil. Some weapons you can get away with standing and moving around while maintaining accuracy, like submachine guns and pistols. But try to move around while using a rifle and you're not going to hit what you're aiming at. Oftentimes you'll need to hold a position, crouch down, and pace your shots. It's something you have to get used to, but there's a real skill in handling the weapons in Helldivers, and it adds a layer of fun to experimenting with weapons to find one you like. Now that's all well and cool, but what about the explosions? While some weapons do cause a satisfying boom boom, most of your heavy ordnance will come from stratagems. Stratagems are extra support that you call in during a mission. It could be an airstrike, it could be a heavy weapon, it could be a turret, it could even be a car that you'll probably flip within seconds of getting it and have to wait for another 12 minutes for another car. Stratagems are what level the playing field. You, your team, and your weapons alone aren't enough to fight the forces of tyranny. We need bombs. So you whip out the wrist pad, hit the Dance Dance Revolution notes, which, by the way, love this, never gets old. Just saying, that's it. Really like this. This is fun. And watch as the ordnance drops right at your location. Neato. Stratagems are not only a unique gameplay feature, but they also have a level of skill to them as you get quicker and quicker calling these in. But beyond calling them in quicker, there's another skill in which stratagems to bring with you in the first place. You can only hold 4 stratagems, which means you'll have to prioritize and work with your team to bring everything you're going to need on a mission. Not all of you need to bring the car. But that would be kind of funny though. The strongest influence of which stratagems to bring, aside from personal preference of course, is the enemy faction you're fighting. At release there were 2 enemy factions, the bugs and the bots. Now there's 3, the bugs, the bots, and the squids? I don't know why we call them squids. If you're fighting the bugs, you're going to want some weapons that can clear out large numbers of weak enemies. My personal pick is the incendiary drum shotgun, but don't forget about the rhinos, tentacle bros, stalkers, and Big Mama. Those tougher carapaces need more penetration, so there needs to be a balance of heavy weapons to go with the faster wave-clearing weapons. The bots, on the other hand, have less of a focus on numbers, are more resistant to fire damage, and use artillery and traditional guns. The bubble dome may not be the most helpful against the bugs, but against the bots and their gunfire, it's literally a lifesaver. The squids are the same way. Certain weapons and stratagems work really well against them, while others don't. There's strategy in not only fighting the enemy factions, but preparing for them. Each one will require a different playstyle with different equipment, but maybe require is the wrong word. I played Helldivers 2 at launch, and while it was fun, there was definitely a set-in-stone strategy for the game. They'd nerf one thing just for another item or stratagem to be the next best thing, and that's what everybody used. I dropped off a month or 2 after release, and from what I understand, Arrowhead was pretty nerf heavy for a while with the game. The game still plays the same, but I've noticed that some equipment is a lot stronger than it was, and certain enemies are a lot weaker than they were. There's a few more enemy types, but the ones that I used to struggle with go down much quicker. The big one for me were the Hulks. These robotic dillweeds, quite frankly, were the bane of my existence when the game first came out. But now, a rocket or 2 to the face, they're done. That's just one example, but don't misunderstand. Just because some of the enemies are easier to take down doesn't mean that the game is easier now. Oh no. This brings us to the biggest and best thing Helldivers has to offer. It is one of the most intense and cinematic games out there, and I'm not talking about cutscenes. No, I'm talking about the gameplay being cinematic. Each mission in Helldivers feels like a story. Sometimes you drop in, call your equipment, and things are pretty chill for a while. It may have a more stealth-like theme, where you set up the perfect ambush to clear out camps before they can call in reinforcements. Other times it's chaos from the start, as you battle for territory inch by inch, slowly working your way towards your objective.
He got me.
Oh, okay. He almost got me. What every mission shares is this feeling of a real war zone. There's explosions everywhere, you're communicating with your team, you're shifting your strategy on the fly to react to new enemy reinforcements and environmental events. Your first set of boots on the ground will be clean, but by the end of the mission you'll be covered in muck and your cape will be tattered. And it's not just for show. You've earned the right to look like that after surviving artillery barrages, or stalker nests, or zombie-infested cities. Helldivers has this real sense of fluidity with its missions. When you start gearing up and looking at the mission briefing, you can prepare accordingly, but until you actually set foot in the mission and start completing objectives, you won't really know what you're in for. This is what makes Helldivers so replayable. Each mission has some surprises, and 2 missions on the same difficulty setting can be vastly different in terms of actual challenge. But it's this uncertainty, this randomness that keeps each dive fresh and, more importantly, fun. You pair this emerging gameplay with incredible camera angles, animation work, and explosions, and you've got yourself a grand backdrop for some really fun and intense video game moments that are perfect for co-op. Helldivers can often feel like the greatest co-op shooter ever, and in a lot of ways, I kind of think it is. It has some of the best gameplay of any co-op shooter with some of the weightiest movement and gunplay, which feels amazing. The Galactic war map does a great job of showcasing everybody's progress as a community, and it really does bring everyone together. And I don't think any of the bugs or glitches hindered my experience at all. Except for those bugs. Occasionally I'd get some visual bug, but nothing really drastic.
I'm stuck in an emo. Don't ever push the emo button.
Oh, there he goes again, becoming a sentient floating torso. Classic Nick. Last year the game would crash all the time, but thankfully now it seems like that issue is completely fixed for me. Overall, 1 year later, Helldivers 2 is just as good as it was, only bigger. More equipment, more stratagems, more enemies, more maps, and it all just fits into the game perfectly. The new enemy faction requires their own strategy to take down, and most of the equipment feels really good to use. It's quite frankly one of the most engaging and replayable co-op experiences out there. It can be difficult, and oftentimes it can be unfair, but overcoming those challenges is what makes Helldivers such a replayable and rewarding experience. Overall, Helldivers is just fantastic, and if you're a fan of co-op shooters, this one is a must play. That being said, I'm still sticking my flag with Deep Rock Galactic. What? I'm sorry, I just love that game too much.
Because we're able to get rid of the gunships immediately. It kind of worked out though, because it's like a smooth getaway. Oh, shut up!
Dude, that was not smooth at all!
Watch the mines.
Oh jeez. Oh jeez. Whoa. Was that you? Where did this come from?
Yes.
I'm glad you said something. Oh my god.